The first syntactic device that can help to emphasize the end of a sentence, help emphasize the proper words, the first trick is the there be shift, the there be structure. And the second one, the passives. And that's quite easy. As we know, a passive verb or the passive structure always revert the position of the subject, the object. Compare these two examples and you will find, of course, the subject and the object, their places are reverted, are swapped. Not only that, but also the emphasis is being changed, is being shifted to different words, different sets of words. For example, the first one, claim that our genes influence aspects of behavior. Our genes, for example, seem to determine. Take a look at the second one. Influenced by our genes. Take a look. Influenced by our genes. By our genes. Influenced by our genes. This is the part that is stressed by the author. Rather than, in comparison with the first example, the first sentence of the first passage, take a look. It employs the active voice. Aspects of a behavior are learned. The emphasis is totally different, such that in the end, the meaning, the topic of the passage changes. Okay, the third device is what shift. Take a look at what is what shift. This is what shift. What is needed. This is a typical example of the so-called what shift. If you look at this two example sentences longer, you will find, in fact, the first one looks teeny-weeny bit simpler. At least it looks short, right? It only employs we need two words. But for the second example, in the second example, what we need is four words. And apart from the first two words and then the first four words, the rest of the sentence, they're the same. The part of that sentence, that set of meaning, for these two examples, they all make appearances at the end of the sentence. Then why the trouble? Why do we take the trouble employing the what structure, the what shift? What we need is. Why is that? I can't think of better explanations, except that the what word, what we need, these words sounds, feels less substantial, less solid than, for example, the first two words of the first sentence. We need, subject, need, a very substantial material verb. And then the ending part of the sentence is even more substantial, more emphasis should be laid upon that. But with the second example, what we need, it feels less substantial because it uses what is. Such words they do not carry much meaning at all. So in comparison, this what part is juxtaposed with the latter part, the much, much more substantial part of the sentence. So with that comparison, we are inclined to feel the emphasis is the right part, the ending part of the second sentence. This is the best explanation I can give, and you are welcome to offer yours. Constructing sentences, building sentences, this is always a matter of craftsmanship. There are different ways, there are different methods, and different styles according to different craftsmen. It's not a matter of fact. It's not a matter of principles that cannot be changed, unchangeable principles. No, it's not. It's always something about the feel, having the right feel about a word, about a phrase, about a sentence. Move on. Number four, technical device number 4, the it shift. And this is simpler. Take a look. It once seemed, This it pronoun, it means nothing. It just shifts the long, very, very long and material and substantial part of the sentence, the set of words, to the very end of that sentence. This is much more common. We are much more, say, at home with such a construction. We do not need further explanation because it carries no meaning, no substantial meaning at all. It's only a grammatical device, let's call it, a grammatical technique, trick. Number 5, not only but also, even more cliche is offered here. This structure, we know it since kindergarten perhaps. Keep in mind, not only but also, the emphasized part of this structure always lies with what? Not only or but also? But also, yes. Always comes at the end, the emphasis. So take a look at, for example, these pair of sentences. We must not only clarify these issues, but also develop trust. Develop trust. And of course, number 6, device number 6 is use pronouns and ellipsis. Ellipsis, what does ellipsis mean? It means leaving out unnecessary, redundant parts. Again, like we mentioned previously, and for the nth time, I mentioned here, English language. The English language has many fears. One of the deepest fear is about repetition. English language fears repeating words that carries material, substantial meaning, such as nouns, such as verbs, and so forth, and so on. So when nouns should be repeated, need to be repeated, then we use pronouns in its substitution, in their substitution. And a lot of time, of course, a lot of things can be omitted. For example, pronouns, repeat that word, that. The voice repeating the noun, use a pronoun, the reader, just before it. 3 pronouns are being utilized here in this passage. And then in the next example, but more often you cannot what? You cannot do what? Apparently things, words, verbs are being omitted in here, right? It is sometimes possible to represent a complex idea in a simple sentence, but more often you cannot represent a complex idea in a simple sentence. This should be the sentence in its most complete form, with nothing omitted. But as you can hear, as you can feel, redundant, very redundant toward the end of the complete sentence, because you're repeating what has been said previously. Thusly, you are making a weak ending of the sentence. So in order to get rid of that weak ending, we just trim stuff, cut things, then omit things. There are more tips. Basically, it's what have been repeated previously, such as read your sentences aloud. Try to use your voice as well. Okay? Sometimes you can make it heard. Sometimes you just use your inner voice without making sound. But still, you can feel your tongues and lips are moving, but not without making the sound. Use your inner voice. Is good too. Try to feel. Try to grasp of where you want the meaningful part of a sentence to be emphasized in a sentence or between sentences. If you stress the wrong words, then your voice and the table tapping feels wrong. This is homework. I think I'll just upload the homework in the WeChat group later, tonight, perhaps tomorrow. Homework. But if you want to take a photo picture, you are welcome. If you do not want to wait, take a photo picture. Basically, you're asked to rewrite these sentences with emphasis placed in the proper place.